As tensions rise between Russia and the West over Ukraine, Russia has just one logical friend to turn to. China? A most populous country with a population of over 1.4 billion, and GDP of over $14.72 trillion as of 2020 according to the World Bank. It's the fourth largest country in the world after Canada, USA, and its newfound economic friend from Europe, Russia. Welcome to YouNik Economy channel, a place where you may learn about current events and geopolitical and economic problems covered by YouNik. To find out if China will put its economy on the table for Russia in this video, let's talk about it now. There are a few things to keep in mind before we get started. First of all, I am not a professional economist, and the information in this video is just for discussion. As usual, Chinese data sources, especially those about the economy, aren't very reliable, to say the least. We always try to use sources that can be independently verified, but some of these are ultimately based on what the Chinese government says, and these reports are often changed to show a better picture of the country. This is not a problem unique to China, and I always advise viewers to do their own research because YouNik Economy does not take responsibility for the data that is available to the public. This is not a problem unique to China. Nevertheless, if Russia invades Ukraine, the United States and Europe are likely to follow through on their threats to cripple its economy by imposing economic sanctions. Despite Beijing's strong diplomatic and military relations with Moscow, Beijing's economic preferences are far more complicated. Russian President Vladimir Putin visited his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on Friday, as the Beijing Winter Olympics begin. The meeting could be warm and fruitful according to international media, who reported their strong collaboration, but the truth may be far from the reality. Despite all this, if both countries are going to work together for good, they may achieve steady economic development to fight against all the threats from the West and other sanctions that may come across. If Russia invades Ukraine, those dangers might become enormous. So far, Moscow has said that it will not be doing so. However, if Russia crosses a red line, as some international critics call it, a mother of all penalties that may be enforced to punish Russia for its annexation of Crimea in 2014, European leaders may also consider sanctions that would go far beyond those already imposed. A diplomatic statement from China has already been made in support of its friend. Xi and Putin released a joint statement after their meeting on Friday, in which they both stated their opposition to further extension of NATO. In the current geopolitical situation, Chinese President Xi Jinping may feel that there may be a strategic benefit in helping Russia. While China and the United States' relationship since the trade dispute between the two countries, which started during Trump's administration, remain at a chronic loggerhead. There is already some indication that tensions with the West have increased collaboration between China and Russia, including some joint exercises in recent times. This might lead to more economic cooperation, but it's not certain how far it will go. You see, Russia relies heavily on China for commerce, yet the opposite is true. In the case of a military conflict, Xi will have less motivation to bind China's fortunes to Moscow, since the Chinese economy is already in trouble for a number of reasons. Vladimir Putin's criticisms are genuine, if Xi adheres to China's professed goal for a diplomatic settlement to the problem. China may not be able to fully strengthen its economic connections with Russia, at least not in the near future. China is Russia's #1 commercial partner, accounting for 16% of the value of its international trade, while Russia, on the other hand, has little impact on China. Only 2% of China's overall trade volume came from the two nations, while trading with Europe and the United States are much greater. With this sort of imbalance, Beijing may exercise extreme caution before entering into a battle between NATO and Russia over Ukraine. With its present economic links to Russia, notably its energy requirements, Beijing may not afford to risk greater estrangement and reaction from Washington and its allies. This might come back to haunt Beijing later. Chinese leaders may be well aware that the stakes are high for the West as well. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned Beijing last month that an invasion of Ukraine would generate global security and economic threats that may potentially harm China. Even China's troubled economy due to the real estate, followed by pandemic, could make it more difficult for Beijing to strengthen ties with Moscow, or even deliver on promises it has already made, such as a recent agreement to boost China-Russia trade to $200 billion by 2024, roughly $50 billion more annually than it currently does, from an expected 8% growth in 2021. The International Monetary Fund predicts that China's GDP will only expand by 4.8% this year. A real estate crisis and weak consumer spending are driving the pace of growth down. It is virtually clear that an increasing crisis in Ukraine will have a significant impact on the global economy if it continues, which the world cannot afford. An economic downturn might be accelerated by such an emergency, and China's rigorous zero-COVID policy may not help. A good relationship with China will likely only alleviate rather than eliminate the effect of Western sanctions on Russia. China can't assist with other issues like the financial nuclear option, for example, which has the potential to upend the economy of Russia. Despite Russia, in association with China, developing their own SPFS payment system, which we have covered in our previous video, has a high security network that links hundreds of financial institutions worldwide, SWIFT might be removed from the nation. The global financial system may be shut off from Russia with the rest of the world as a result of this. SPFS is nowhere near to being adequately internationalized to compete with the US dollar, which plays a crucial role in both SWIFT and commodity trade, which is the lifeblood of Russia's economy. Beijing might step up attempts to create a yuan-denominated payment system, allowing it to do business with other sanctioned nations without having to use dollars or euros. Companies in China and Russia still may prefer to denominate trade in freely convertible currencies like US dollars, so any measures to diminish Western dominance would be more aspirational than substantive. Russia's recent past does not support it. It was economic sanctions that forced Russia to turn to China for backing when it took Crimea in 2014. However, although openly opposing these sanctions and promising stronger economic connections, Beijing was powerless in the face of Russia's challenges and misfortune. According to data, Russia's exports to China declined by 29% in 2015. In addition, Chinese direct investment in Russia was also hit. Not only that, during the same period Russia's overall balance of trade also declined with the world market. Among other things, Chinese financial institutions may not want to do business with their Russian counterparts in order to avoid sanctions. Even if they do, the conditions may not be good for Russia. Since China's economy is 9 times bigger than Russia's and China is the senior partner in the recent bilateral relationship, in Beijing's favor, it seems that Moscow's decision-making process is being influenced. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to give a thumbs up, leave a comment, and, if you haven't done so already, click the subscribe button to keep up with the latest videos and updates.